You all know me, and if you don't, you're about to get a lot more insight into me as a person. At least, what I've gone through. I try to keep it lighthearted and crack jokes on this channel, but I also want to stay honest and realistic. And you can't always be happy all the time. Years ago, I was in an abusive relationship that I'll go into more depth in a different video. But summed up, it was a relationship that started out fine and normal, but he turned abusive sexually, emotionally, and verbally. But because we had been together so long and he already made me cut off so many of my old friends, I grew to be comfortable with the familiarity of being with him after so long. I was with him for a year and 4 months, and I got with him right before COVID made us all stay home at school. So when I was dealing with him treating me horribly every day, I was stuck at home, couldn't go anywhere. At the time, my mom was constantly arguing with me, telling me I was never happy, that either we both needed to get help or just me, along with my, at the time, boyfriend shaming me for so much as eating or wanting to hang out with my friends. I started getting stuck in a dark place. I was used by him for my body, what little he cared for, since he was always talking to other girls on social media, and every day when I'd argue, he'd block them before unblocking them. He'd constantly yell at me, want to be on the phone all the time to watch me, wouldn't want me to hang out with friends, used my money to buy his own drugs, and as a punching bag. If I didn't want to do any of those things, he'd pressure me or get angry and throw a temper tantrum. So to avoid an argument, I'd normally just agree from the pressure and give him what he wants. So he'd give me a few minutes of peace afterwards. That's just the surface of everything he did to me. After a while of dealing with him, I stopped eating for a day. Despite being very skinny, he called me a fat ass while I was eating, which made me lose my appetite completely. I thought about running away because I would never have the willpower to cut myself or anything like that. But when he'd stay on the phone, watching me as he played his stupid video games, getting mad when I'd want to sleep, because at least when I'm asleep I found myself numb to the anger and sadness I felt around him, I started to pray to God that if this was the life I was going to live, that was mapped out for me, I just wanted to go to sleep and not wake up. It got to the point I was ashamed to eat in front of him, so I wouldn't eat in front of him. I had to turn the camera away before he'd get mad he couldn't see me, so I ate the bare minimum, if at all. To me, the pain of me not eating was better than the pain of not being the girl he wanted, not having the perfect body, or crying to sleep every night knowing that this relationship was wrong, but being too scared of what he'd do to me if I left. To him, I wasn't worth anything besides what I could give him. So I started to believe that. Until one day, when on the phone with him, I logged into Instagram on my laptop and texted my group chat of friends. My boyfriend wouldn't have liked that I talked about our problems, and he even tried shit-talking my friends before, trying to get me to get rid of them, despite them not being guys like his past excuse, but I stood up for them. Audrey, an amazing friend of mine, let me vent to her, and I cracked. I started to cry. Her and my friend Adrian both told me how beautiful I was, how the old me would never have let this guy treat me like he did. Every time I needed to vent, they were there, constantly letting me cry to them about it, telling me how I don't deserve that kind of treatment and how they love me. Soon after, when my boyfriend got into a horrible argument with his father, I mean, it was bad, he called me trying to get me to pick him up. His dad called me and threatened me and cussed me out, and my ex went to school in a police car. It was a whole thing. He wouldn't even let me comfort him while he was crying, and after the treatment he gave me, a part of me didn't care what happened to this wimp. He went to move in with his mom an hour away. Soon, with my friend's help, I finally got the courage to leave him. They reminded me I was enough as a friend, that I was worth being loved, and that I could come to them if I had a problem. They reassured me I was never the problem. I was never not enough. He just demanded an unfair amount for a relationship. I'll go deeper into the story in another video, but when you're finding yourself stuck in a hard place, make sure you have a circle of friends to talk to. It can be a small circle, but even one person can make a difference between you wanting yourself to just disappear, or if you want to take another step another day. That was my experience, so now I'm gonna let a good art friend of mine share her story. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Faith Hale, otherwise known to you as Dusty or any of the names you know from me from social media. When I've said this to people, their responses were very clear. I mean, who would believe that a person like me was going to end their own life? But it is true. But I'm also not going to sit here and act like that was easy either. How people make it look so simple, like how schools and videos made it look like it's so easy to do such things, but we all know it wasn't. Some people just don't take the time to see your struggles, but that doesn't mean that people don't care. People do care, and so does everybody that you love and care about. So please enjoy. It all started at the beginning of high school, which I didn't really fit in, but I fitted out, and accepted me for who I was, and also made friends with others who agreed. The bullies at my school weren't just like your normal local bullies. I could handle being called ugly or freak, but the bullies at my school literally told us to go kill ourselves. And not to mention, I was struggling a lot at home, and my grades were going down by the second, and my friends weren't really talking to me as much as usual. So with all this going on, plus more, I was starting to consider what those bullies were saying. When I went home, I grabbed the pencil sharpener off my bed. I headed to the bathroom and locked myself in, turned off the lights, and plopped myself down. I looked at my wrist to see where a blood vessel was. My plan was to pop a blood vessel and bleed to death. That is until I heard a ding coming from the room, and I glanced at the notification that lit up the room and sat in my own tears, which I thought later would be my own blood, and laughed. I really laughed, because the most clever name me and my friends could think of was girls. 2 long years of friendship and all we could think about was girls. I had to at least outlive that silly group chat name. So I did it for them. And for all the people who saved my life that day. And realize life can throw you struggles, but you have to learn to dodge them. So stay safe. Thank you.